I'd like to welcome Claudio Medeiros from SeaChange.
Hello,
Claudio,
everyone.
how are you?
Very good. Thanks, Eric. Nice to be here with you guys.
Yeah, great to have you. We've been talking about dynamic ad insertion for a long time now. Why is it more important than ever in 2021?
Yeah, just before that, it's good to be wrapping up the panel here. We talked a little bit about the infrastructure, the CDN infrastructure to deliver video to end users. We talked a little bit about all of the media processing pipelines that are required to that, and us at SeaChange here, we kind of wrap everything up together with the video delivery platform, where the user is actually going to do the content acquisition processing, coordinate the processing with companies such as encoding.com, manage all of the assets that are within the platform, provide the DRM, and also we provide on top of that the monetization through ads, which is the main discussion topic that we have here today, but also through traditional paid modules such as subscription, transactional, and ultimately we provide custom clients to every device out there. So to your question, Eric, it's much relevant nowadays. We are seeing a shift in the industry where upfront ad campaigns are becoming not less relevant, but on top of that, we have a new, smarter way of targeting advertisement, and that's only feasible through dynamic ad insertion. On the upfronts of 2020 season to 2021, the current one that we're actually experiencing now, it was perceived a drop of about 27% of ad spent on upfront traditional ad sales. That's, of course, driven by the fact that COVID is out there. There was a bunch of sports events that got delayed or even canceled. But that doesn't mean that the total expenditure was less on digital TV assets. It was just shifted to more smarter ways of doing so, and such as with dynamic ad insertion, specifically with targeted and programmatic ways of providing ads.
You know, it's interesting. The 2021-22 upfronts are going on right now, and Discovery had theirs this morning, and I wasn't watching because I was taking part in this, but one of our writers texted me and said that, you know, Discovery came out and spent a lot of time emphasizing the fact that linear broadcast is still very important, but then spent the entire rest of the presentation talking about streaming. So that's clearly where the puck is moving. As we talk about dynamic ad insertion and the different segments of the video industry, what's there for those different segments that dynamic ad insertion can bring?
Yeah, and you just brought up Discovery as a content owner, also a linear channel that potentially can go to market with a DTC strategy, streaming DTC strategy. For instance, they can better leverage their long tail assets and niche assets by utilizing target advertisement, tailoring the audience of those particular assets. It becomes more relevant to advertisers to just use that particular content assets, and the CPM, called the cost per mille of those particular assets become optimized and ultimately rise to better values and ultimately increasing revenues, right? On the pay TV industry, and again, Discovery, it's a huge name for that. On the pay TV industry, they are tied up today with the type of direct ad sales, DMA-based campaigns, with dynamic ad insertion, and some of those assets, about 40 to 50% of those ad inventories are not sold by the direct sales team. So with the dynamic ad insertion, what we can actually leverage is a just-in-time process to add ads to the programming, as you would basically just waste those segments without any particular insertion on top of it. Of course, the price of those programmatics are lower, but anyway, you are getting revenue that before you're just throwing at the garbage. For broadcasters, for instance, there is the next generation in TV knocking on the door with ATSC 3.0. ATSC 3.0 will ultimately address the addressability and personalization points for actual broadcast devices. Let's call it broadcast this way, because now it's more like a hybrid broadcast broadband device, right? So it will allow them to explore that segment as well. And just to mention this, the last year and the last couple of months, there has been a lot of traction of free ad-supported TV platform and channels out there. They've been very successful. The core of their technology stack is based on dynamic ad insertion, and for them it's just a matter of improving the user experience, making sure that they are providing ads with the same quality of service that they would provide the actual content.
Well, let's talk now then a little bit about how exactly dynamic ad insertion works. What are the main components involved?
Sure. So I prepared here a couple, like an overview of what we call server-side ad insertion. I want to focus on this one because I believe it addresses three main aspects that the client-side ad insertion doesn't address, which is basically it prevents natively ad blockers. When you're doing client-side, actually the ads are being served by a completely different location, so it's easy for software to use those sort of techniques just to strip out ads and provide a pirate's user experience. It's seamless when you're thinking about the transitions between content and ads. They are served at the same pipeline. It's almost like a broadcast transmission. And also the quality of experience, as I mentioned before, is the same because the ad content and the actual content is being served from the same location. So typically how it works, right? The client on a non-DAI environment, the client requests what we call manifest files from the CDN. It's served as a static file on the CDN, and then they get back the location of the media chunks that they need to execute to play it back. When we're doing server-side digital dynamic ad insertion, basically that traffic is routed to what we call a manifest manipulator. This request for this manifest, they come together with some attributes from the client, such as geolocation, tracking parameters from the device itself that are acquired through API, the type of content that you are actually executing, and the time slot window where the ad is going to be inserted. The manifest manipulator takes all of this information, forwards to something called ad decision server through protocols, IAB standard protocols called VEST for live and VMAP mainly for VOD content. The ad decision server, in their regards, return back the ads that are going to be inserted on each one of these segments. And by returning ads, meaning returning several metadata and the location of the media that needs to be executed. In order to ensure the optimal QoS, one process that you can go through is basically fetching those media files and run through a process that we're calling here just-in-time ad ingest, which is basically going to process those media files to all of the variants that are served by this platform, push it to the CDN, and ultimately, when the client gets back the manifest annotated with all of those new media chunks on it, it will get and it will play back content from the same location or from similar quality of experience location that you would have, edge location that you would have for the real content. Just to finish here, the manifest manipulator also forwards to the client several tracking routines that we can discuss further.
So what are some of the other considerations regarding infrastructure for a successful dynamic ad insertion strategy?
Yeah, of course. So it's very important to consider that now you are processing a manifest one-to-one for the end users, right? And this will demand different processing capacities for the typical average usage of your platform. But then we are still like a TV platform, and we're still prone to the prime time effect on all of our platforms, right? So it's important to consider a hybrid cloud architecture that will allow you to scale the manifest manipulator cluster to provide services to all of the end users, to all the viewers that are coming at the same time, to provide them the best user experience. And also like the ad decision servers need to scale together to accommodate all of those calls. It becomes more an HTTP web service type of infrastructure for the serving of the ads also.
Can you talk a little bit more about ad tracking? What's the purpose?
Sure. So as I mentioned prior, together with the manifest with the annotated media files, annotated media segments, the client will also receive several routines that needs to execute. Those routines are mainly for the ad decision platform to make it transparent in terms of the data regarding how many ads were served, what are the performance of each one of the ads, and how the user interact with those ads. This will allow marketeers to better target their campaigns, but and also plan some advanced capabilities also on the client, such as interactivity. Typically, those are going to track viewing progress in quartiles. So if the video started playing back, if the ad started playing back, and the progress 25%, 50%, 75%, all the way to the conclusion of the ad. If there was any playback errors, for instance, during the process of ingesting the ads, we might not have enough time to provide the particular ads to the end user. So error might occur there. We need to report that back. The actual impression, if the ads were executed or not, and even interactive routines, such as allowing the clients to handle click-through options on the content and taking that customer directly to a website where they can purchase a given product. All of this is tied together with SDKs that run on the client and communicate with the manifest manipulator or the ad decision server.
What about dealing with the incredible diversity of devices that are out there on the market? Are there any challenges there, considering how ads might be supported differently on one device as opposed to another device?
Yeah, absolutely. Each one of the, as I mentioned, one of the most important information that is required for targeting is basically the tracking, the tracking ID of the device. Those are standard. There's a standard way of identifying the devices, which is described by the IAB. But there are different APIs to acquire each one of those IDs, right? And the way you report those back to the ad decision server. This is one perspective of it. The other ones, it's some of the device manufacturers, they have their walled garden structure with restrictions and policies, and they demand that apps that run on top of their platform with that are ad supported provide, for instance, percentage of the ad allocation to their own publishing services to execute upon. So this will require integration with each one of those. Main examples would be Roku and Amazon nowadays, that they require, for instance, a 30% share of this ad inventory with their publishing services. So this is more or less what are the main difficulties to navigate this multi-device environment.
Terrific. That's a lot of information, and there's a lot of
very condensed set of information, right?
Right, but we placed in the chat how people can get in touch with you if they want, and there's your email address right there on the screen. As anyone who has read Streaming Media Magazine or followed the industry knows, server-side ad insertion, dynamic ad insertion is one of the most exciting, but also one of the most complicated challenges and opportunities out there. So thank you for shedding some light on how on those challenges and opportunities, and also how SeaChange approaches them. So thanks so much, Claudio.
Perfect. Thanks a lot, Eric.